Welcome to Forum Friday. On Forum Fridays, me and Mark, we're going to dive a little deeper into the forums and what's happening there. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Lynn. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Excellent. All ready for the weekend?
Yes, I am. It's been a really busy week.
That's
So,
cool.
what's been happening at the forums?
We've had a little bit of activity, some interesting questions. The one discussion that started up that I found was interesting to highlight today is we have information on Bakerpedia under analytical processes and things like that as to how to test for how to go through the process of determining total titratable acidity. But sometimes this is not fully understood by bakers who may not have had an academic education. And so there was a question, and fellow was trying to, as he put it, he was trying to calculate the percent of TTA. But there is no percent of TTA. TTA is expressed in mil, and it's a concentration of how much
many milliliters?
titratable acid you have.
Right.
And so kind of walk through that in the conversation a bit, and of course asked also if anybody has any other comments to make. Hopefully we'll hear from them as from a viewpoint. And I posted the link to a video on YouTube that shows step by step the method of doing it in a lab by diluting your product in distilled water or reverse osmosis water, and neutralizing it, and then adding the sodium hydroxide to it until you hit a pH of 8.4, and then there you have the number of mils that you've used, and you know what your titratable acidity is, right?
Right.
So it's not something that a lot of bakers necessarily learn unless they get into some of the analytical processes, or like I said, like a university and academic education in food science or things like that. So I think it's a good conversation in that respect. Right?
So, Mark, don't you think that just answering that is really inadequate in trying to put a QC program together? I mean, what's the purpose of TTA?
Yes,
what should be the purpose of TTA?
Well, the purpose of TTA is to determine the concentration of acid in comparison versus the amount of acidity that you have. In other words, the pH. So in sourdough production, this is very important. It'll help you determine, in terms of maintaining quality control over the sour flavor profile that you're looking for, so that it's not just a matter of hitting pH, but also the concentration and how that affects your dough processing and everything else as well. So it's something you can do with a very small amount of sourdough in determining where it is before you continue fermentation. Then you can always buffer it with more flour and water, or you can add more if the acidity concentration is too low. So to get the right target. In other areas, it might be part of your shelf life if you're trying to hit a certain amount of acid concentration to prevent microbial growth. So it could be part of the QA process there.
Right, and I wanted to point it out too, because we use that to get data from the crumb grain after it's baked, so that we know that the CalPro is effective.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we try to target a particular TTA and pH below 5.5.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of issues with that when we have mold problems. That's when it's a big deal. So
yeah, and I did some technical support in Puerto Rico in a plant where they produced cupcakes and muffins, and they were using CalPro, sodium diacetate, and another acid of some type to try and drop their pH, and again to prevent mold growth because of the humidity in the area, right? So they didn't have the ability to do modified atmosphere packaging, So they're addressing it from an acidity aspect. And so there again, same thing as we tested the crumb after bake, because we could see, and it was easy to test the batter before bake, but also keep in mind your baking soda level has to be enough there to give you gas and power to rise, but
Mhm.
also that it doesn't neutralize all your acid, right? So you want to have enough of that acidity left to be part of your basis for preventing the mold growth in that sense. So, and it worked out pretty good that way.
That's
And so
correct. Yeah.
it's a very valuable tool, and yeah, it's worth learning how to do it properly too. I mean, we have great information on the website, but also look for courses through AIB or other organizations where there are short courses often that you can take that are half a day or less, and you will learn a lot of these analytical processes and things like that, because some of them are done through instrumentation these days, and then people lose the ability to understand what is actually happening from the wet chemistry aspect.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
it's important things to know. Um, and we've had continue along those lines. There's questions that continue along shelf life and shelf life extension and things. And so again, it's always important to understand your criteria of what do you mean by shelf life, what are your objectives, is it simply mold growth, or is it staling, or is it other things. And sometimes it can be flavor release or flavor retention, because certain flavors have volatility that will flash off over time. So
Mhm.
always be specific and clear when you're dealing with R&D or your QA, or asking us for help too, is that what exactly you're trying to achieve with shelf life or with the other things. And the more specific you are with your questions, the better we can help as well, always, right? And
Yeah, that's what I like about the forums, and I'm seeing the questions coming in. Just basically people, looking for help that doesn't need, kind of a formal consultation.
mhm.
Just on a procedure, or where do I buy this, or where do I buy that?
Yep.
That's the best way to use the forum.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do, and trying to help teach them to ask the specific questions.
Uh-huh. That's
It's
true.
one of those things. Like I always go back to that Abraham Lincoln thing. If he was given an axe to fell a tree in 4 hours, he would spend 3 hours sharpening his axe. And so we gotta, that's the famous rail splitter term, I guess they call it, right? And we have to sharpen our axe when we're troubleshooting and when we're doing research and things. And like another friend of mine would always say, if we knew what we were doing, we wouldn't call it research. So that's why we're always searching, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. That's what science is all about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Science is the continual search for innovative solutions to our problems.
And you've had some things going on with speaking of training and education.
Yeah, we just had a really successful seminar yesterday, where we talked about cake shelf life.
Oh, awesome.
So what I have here is a cake that's a week old with a what do you call frosting
icing, yeah,
that uses liquid oil.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about this during the class, and we will have the recording available in 2 weeks. So I also actually made this vegan, gluten-free.
Oh, cool! Yeah, and it's
a whole bunch of things in there.
And that icing's heat stable too. You said, I mean, like it's like
icing, yeah.
It can stand up to very warm environments.
Yeah. Right? This class was sponsored by Zoom Essence. I used some of their chocolate coconut flavor in here. It's really good.
Former colleague of mine works for Zoom.
Oh,
yeah, cool. Yeah. He's the baker there.
Oh,
he's head of R&D. Yeah.
Nice. So they're in the process of developing more flavors. We also had IFC with their natural colors. Look at this metallic blue. It's natural. Can you see
That is
it?
awesome. That looks like the color of my car.
Well, it is really nice. It's
Yeah,
really
it's
nice
pretty.
with the icing. You can see I put this in icing. Can you see it?
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Yes.
Are they using spirulina? Did they mention, or do you know?
I think it is. I
Yeah.
think it is some form of spirulina and mica, right?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
then
remember in the old days we used to always teach that you don't use blue colorings because it's not natural, right? But that's changed today.
it's changed. Black.
Oh wow, that is cool. Yeah.
It's really black, and it's not charcoal.
That is cool. That has always been very difficult.
It is difficult for
Yeah.
this.
I did a wedding cake about 25 years ago where the decorations and the icing was the lacing was all black, and that was really hard to get it black. Otherwise, it just looks like dark gray.
Gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these guys, IFC Solutions, they're so innovative. And they will blend anything for you to your specifications. If you want a particular color, they'll blend it for you using all natural, and Sandy from IFC actually presented, and I learned so much just in that small presentation itself on the different natural components of color and how it contributes, and pH and temperature changes things, so it was a great lesson on color. So that particular seminar is going to be available in 2 weeks. And we also had J&K Ingredients talk about Sorbate, which is a potassium sorbate replacer. And we are going to run tests right now to see how long the Sorbate lasts. Yeah, so one of the reasons why we did this this particular seminar on cakes is because you keep getting all these questions, on shelf life. It's not on bread, it's on cake. So originally we want to just do one on shelf life, but there was just too much information. So we broke up into the bread that me and you taught, and then the cake that was yesterday.
Yep.
And it's really successful because I gauge success through questions. What kind of questions are coming through? And those kinds of questions that will very, very from the floor, from the production floor, real questions. That's how I judge a seminar. For example, one of the questions was, what kind of preservatives can I use, like potassium benzoate or potassium sorbate and sodium propionate, and what combination and what concentration, so that I can get my product till 60 days. And that's a test all by itself. There's tons of research. You need to figure out what kind of product do you have, what kind of environment do you have, what kind of distribution conditions you have, so all those things, are so vital. So my encouragement to you is, if you have questions that weren't answered during the seminar, bring them on to our forum and ask there. Now, if you need proprietary secrecy in your process and your formulation, then
contact us directly.
Contact us directly. We have a program called Baker Help, where you can hire Richard, and Richard can really do a one-on-one consulting with you to solve your shelf life issues.
And that's when we can have the CDAs in place and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what's happening in my world and keeping me busy.
Well, speaking of
so surprising, because something like that takes me a week of research.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the bread shelf life, is that as of yesterday, it was 3 weeks since I baked the onion loaves, and that are in the control bag and the So Fresh bag. And so I am going to assemble the video from that to make it into. I took a photograph every day. Once the mold started appearing, I took a photograph every day, and we'll assemble that into like a time lapse, and you can see the difference.
Oh, that's so cool.
How much the control bag goes moldy and how much the So Fresh doesn't.
Mine hasn't molded yet. Mine's been 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep going for a while and see how long, because still until I because with the onions you would think it might promote it because of the sugar in the onions, but
No, onions has those special antimicrobials in it.
oh, okay, yeah, but it didn't help the standard, didn't help the control much at all. So, it's pretty much covered, right? And so we'll have that coming up. I'll post the interim video after 21 days and keep taking pictures every day to see how long we get.
I look forward to that project. Well, that's all for today's Forum Friday. If you want to catch us during the week, you know where to find us, bakerpedia.com/academy. Thank you all for coming.
All right, thanks. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.